Hello, everyone. We're going to let everybody stream in for a minute. My name is Brian Van Hook. So get your coffee. If you're eating your lunch, that's okay. But in the meantime, we're going to have a couple of poll questions pop up. Please take a minute to fill out the poll because we definitely want the feedback on like who are we talking to, what's your business, what's your background, things like that. So we'll have one poll at the beginning just on who your business is, and then we'll have a poll on the back end about if the presentation was good, if you would recommend it, if there's anything we can improve, just because we like to know the quality of the presentations. And I was also going to ask you to put in the chat just who you are, what's your name, what's your business, where you're located, so we can kind of have some more information. And then if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section because we will answer your questions in the Q&A. So I'll give it another minute or two for everybody to get in. Okay. Hi, Kristen from Port Richey. Welcome. Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me just pull up the presentation. Let's see. Okay, and before we get into the actual presentation, we're really very happy to partner with Healthy West Kendall and West Kendall Baptist Hospital. So we have one of the all-stars from West Kendall Baptist Hospital, Michelle, here to kind of make some remarks on behalf of that. And I would just say they're a really great partner for local small businesses in their community in the West Kendall area. So I would turn it over to Michelle for any remarks on behalf of them.
Thank you, Brian. I want to welcome you all today to this incredible webinar. I want to tell you just really briefly, here in West Kendall, we truly consider ourselves an anchor institution. And so we take this long-term view on helping to prepare our community to be a healthy community. And what falls within that health is, of course, economic health as well, and supporting your businesses for the long term. So I hope you find this helpful, and that's it. Have a great webinar. Thank you. Happy to collaborate with the SBDC on this initiative. Thank you, Brian, for all your support.
No, thank you, Michelle. And thanks to you guys. I know you guys are big, very focused on disaster resiliency, disaster preparedness. So you guys are a natural partner on behalf of this. And I know definitely we look forward to seeing a lot of folks from Kendall, West Kendall on, and if not, then we can also share with them the video so that they can watch it afterwards. So let's get into the presentation, guys. In terms of this, we want to talk about disaster preparedness and the new normal, because we all know it is not a normal day, not a normal hurricane season in South Florida and Miami. So let's get into it. First, who is this guy talking to you? Why am I qualified to talk to you? As I mentioned, I'm regional director of the Florida SBDC at FIU. I'm originally from Louisiana, although I've been here in Miami since 2014. And I'm a certified business continuity professional. I have about 16 years of disaster experience with disaster recovery and business continuity. As the picture shows you, in a previous position, I worked at the U.S. Department of Commerce, and I also worked in the United States Senate. So I got to respond to a lot of disasters, including Katrina, Hurricane Rita, the BP oil spill. That's actually the picture that I show my kids that your dad was once cool, where I got to fly in like the helicopter over the oil spill and go meet with some fishermen and shrimpers. And that day I was the one that had to also go meet with bankers. So a lot of these shrimpers and fishermen that I know, I had to be the guy in the suit. And they were like, why are you wearing a suit, Brian? You're a Louisiana guy. So I had to go meet with bankers afterwards. So I was very well dressed for that visit. In terms of what we're going to show you guys for today, we're going to discuss first how you can incorporate pandemic planning into your overall disaster response, because right now we have to factor that in as part of the new normal, like we mentioned. We're going to help you to identify unique risks to your business and how you can mitigate them. We're going to identify any operations or personnel that are critical to running your business and also to recovery. And then last but not least, We're going to talk about resources that you can take advantage of. Obviously, SBDC is one of them, but we're not the only resource that you can use. So we want to give you kind of what's free, what's no cost, what you can take advantage of. So I was just going to mention the SBDC network is funded through a cooperative agreement with the SBA. So shout out to the SBA. We're part of the Florida SBDC network. So I know we have folks like in Port Richey and other cities. So we are the SBDC if you are in Miami-Dade County and the Florida Keys. But if you're not in those areas, don't worry. You have other centers that are located around the state that are close to you, another 8 centers that can help you out. And in terms of what we do, we provide one-on-one business assistance. So we can help you with everything from starting a business to getting capital, to international trade, to marketing, government contracting. The only stuff we can't do is tax and legal advice. And actually I put Roberto Castillon up there, who's one of our financial consultants. Roberto last year, we're very proud. He was #1 in the state in terms of access to capital. He helped businesses get $26 million in capital. So this one consultant. So I feel obligated to put Roberto in the presentation when I talk about my team. And then we also do provide trainings and workshops for the community. This is a really great slide with our whole team. Let me see. Sorry. Brianna, let me know I need to switch up my slide. So thanks, Brianna. It was in presenter view. So basically, this is our team. We have 27 business specialists. So they're all specialists in different areas. As I mentioned, all the different things from marketing, international trade, access to capital. So this is the Miami team. And then we also have 4 consultants that are located in the Florida Keys. So in terms of the business, basically, it's a lot of things to have a resilient business. It's basically risk management, contingency planning, emergency preparedness, disaster recovery planning for your IT, and then basically succession planning. So a lot of businesses don't prepare in terms of like if a key employee or if something happens to the owner, and that's something that could close the business. So that's what we are here to help you with. So for, we can help you with a full business continuity plan if you need it. We can help you with emergency contact list. If you just need like a tabletop exercise, we're here to help you in terms of kind of getting your business better prepared. And the big thing that I'm stressing for businesses is there's a few things that you can do today that could help you when something happens tomorrow. So you basically need to, don't overthink it. I know a lot of folks will kind of see like it's a big mountain you got to climb, and they think, oh my gosh, I got to climb all the way to the top. Well, it takes a couple of steps and just get started. So there's a couple of key tasks that you can do, and then you can knock those out, and then you'll be better prepared than you were before you started the day. So let's see. So the next thing I want to talk about is just some of the disaster trends, because in terms of business continuity, this shows you basically since 1992, going back to Hurricane Andrew, every couple of years we have something. So not all of these have hit Miami-Dade County, the Florida Keys, but this impacted your supply chain, this impacted your customers, this impacted your employees. So these are things that you need to factor into your business operations. And obviously now we're dealing with COVID, that's 2020 and ongoing. So we're still dealing with 2020 to 2021 with COVID. So you want to factor in those type of things. In terms of business continuity, a lot of businesses will think about like, a hurricane. They'll think about Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Irma or something like that. For a lot of businesses though, their margins are really small, so they don't think about things. And obviously we live in Miami-Dade County, road construction, road closures. Now we have to deal with cybersecurity. So there's a lot of different factors that can impact your business. And for a lot of businesses, the margin is smaller. I was going to mention, we do have a poll that's located up there. Please note if you have a business continuity plan or disaster plan for your business. We would be interested to know who doesn't have one, who needs one, just kind of what's the readiness of your business. So thanks to Brianna for throwing that poll question up. So So let's see. And then I also don't just give you the broccoli, I also give you the dessert. So basically in terms of business continuity can also give you a competitive advantage. So you see like the little turtle down there, you know, he's got the wheelbarrow, he's getting ahead of the rabbit. But businesses basically need to think about business continuity, not just as something you have to do, but something that can make you more competitive. Because just think, if you're down for an extended period of time, your competitors, if they're better prepared, they could steal your customers. And also a lot of businesses now are in the supply chain. So if you're not a big, huge company, you know, you're just a mom and pop, but you work with the federal government, you work with the state government, you work with local government, or you're working with a larger business, you're in the supply chain. So if you're impacted, that impacts their business, that impacts the local government. And also for government contracting, a lot of businesses now do have to submit business continuity plans. They do have to submit you know, cybersecurity plans, you know, for things like that. So they have to be more prepared than ever before to go after these contracts. So these are things that they're considering now. In terms of basically long-term consideration. So like it says, like it or not, business continuity planning for COVID-19 is something we have to factor in. So you have to give strong consideration to e-commerce and direct-to-consumer sales if you haven't already, because these folks that had these sales channels in place last year, along with the marketing to match, they saw their sales skyrocket. While other folks that were traditional brick and mortar, or they went through other folks, they basically had trouble when we had the shelter-in-place orders. Also on the topic of marketing, you don't want to have necessarily a one-size-fits-all marketing strategy, because if you're operating in multiple localities, you want to have it be a little more nimble, because what if your message or your marketing is tailored towards one community that's open, but in another community it's closed or it's shut down. So you need to be sensitive to that. So those are things that you need to think about, because you might have additional cost if you have to change the message or the, you know, content and things like that last minute, or it might delay you getting marketing out. So those are things you want to kind of think through. I did put, if you're looking to get some COVID planning, there are some federal guidance and FAQs that are posted up on the CDC website. By now, everybody's been, you know, well-versed in the CDC and all the CDC information. So I would just mention to you that that is a really great source to get business-specific information. And they're constantly putting up new guidance, new information. And then also I want to mention, for a lot of businesses, we don't just go to the federal government. You don't just go to CDC. You saw for COVID-19, you have basically federal guidance, you have state guidance, you have county guidance, you have city guidance, depending on your municipality. You also have industry guidance. For a disaster preparedness specialist, for folks that work on business continuity, this is, you know, for lack of a better term, we say don't let a good disaster go to waste. In that respect, you have all these resources that can help you be better prepared for the next pandemic. And a lot of folks are saying this is only the first pandemic that potentially could happen. There could be other ones down the road. So right now you have the ability to go into the CDC website, to go into the state of Florida, county government, city government, whatever relevant industry you have, and you can actually download the guidance for employers to open, guidance for you to run your business during a pandemic. So those are things that are gold, because when you're doing your business continuity plans, a lot of times pre-COVID, you would have to conceptually think about those things. So now you can actually download it and kind of have the plans ready to go. There might be some modifications when you have another pandemic, but you actually have something to work from. So like I say on there, download, review, save it, anything that applies to you. This is going to be the rules of the road when we have a future pandemic, and you can incorporate that into your planning. And then I did include up here some additional information from the CDC, also from FEMA. The CDC information regarding like the continuity planning, the checklist, that's really good information. I would caution you, the FEMA pandemic plan, it's really good if you really want to get detailed. It is a little bit in the weeds. It is very, very detailed. So I would say take a look at it, but don't feel like you're obligated to use it if you don't feel like it applies to your business, or if it would be a little complicated. But I like to be thorough and give out all the resources we're familiar with. So basically 3 resources from CDC and 1 from FEMA. But the FEMA pandemic is really good. I just think for a lot of smaller businesses, it might not be like the best fit. So now that we talked about pandemic planning, let's talk about how we can help you kind of jumpstart your non-pandemic planning. Because as we're here today, we are at the start of hurricane season. As I mentioned, there's road construction, there's cybersecurity, there's other factors you need to include. First, most important thing is understand the risks specific to your business. So as I stand here right now, if you guys are all in Florida, we don't have to worry about a volcano. So you can cross out volcano in terms of risk to impact your business. But there's a lot of other things that can impact you, ranging all the way from like theft, cybersecurity, active shooters, like any of those type of things, hurricanes, road construction. So you're the one that knows your business and your employees and your location better than anybody. So there's key things that you need to ask yourself. Like, have you done a risk assessment on what risks are more likely to threaten your business? Like I said, don't worry about volcanoes. Sometimes we do this presentation and I say, you don't have to worry about snow. You don't have to worry about ice and frost. And then we have folks from like North Florida, like, yeah, we have to worry about that. So the other thing you can do is in terms of your business, you can do some tabletop exercises. Our center does have some tabletop exercises that are available. Other groups have tabletop exercises as well. This is where you sit down with the team that's going to be involved in disaster response and you go through some different scenarios. How do we respond to this? What will we do? How can we improve our planning? How can we improve the response? It's just a very basic thing. It's a good thing to do at least once a year. If you can do it more frequently than that, even better. The other thing we always suggest to businesses is, when is the last time you did a visual inspection of your business? When's the last time you walked around your business and just looked? Is there a crack here? Is there flooding there? Is there something going on with this equipment, this machine? Just walk around. Also, taking pictures, very important. Nowadays, you don't think about having like an old Polaroid or something like that. It's all on your phone, or if you have a digital camera. But you want to have pictures of key equipment, your building, any kind of stuff before a disaster happens, because you want to be able to show that it was in good working order before the disaster. So then when you go for SBA disaster loans or insurance afterwards, you can show kind of the before and after. And then, like I said, don't overthink it. Basically, what are basic things you can do today that can prepare your business against future disasters? Come up with a list of 3 or 4 action items, set a deadline for those specific items, basically work on those, knock those out, and then add 3 or 4 more, set a deadline, work on those. That's a good way to work through this. Not to come up with a list of 20 things. In terms of your business, you need to think through what makes your business run. Like I said, you know your business better than anybody. Who makes your business run? Where does it run? What runs your business, and then how does your business run? You need to think through those different questions in terms of, what is a critical function? What is an important function? What is a non-essential function? So you want to think through what's non-essential. I guarantee you, for COVID, a lot of businesses now know what's not essential. They really focus on kind of the critical and important aspects of the business, like payroll, operations, things like that. And you want to think through like a normal business interruption. As I say, normal, like COVID's definitely not normal, but a normal business interruption to those critical functions. Is that 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a week? Kind of what are things you are essential that you need, and what are things you can do without for a limited amount of time? Whenever we do these presentations, you always have folks that talk about insurance. And I always have to reiterate that basically insurance is a partial solution. It's not going to replace your customers, and it's not going to cover all your losses. So you don't need to just say, I don't need a business continuity plan, or I don't need to think through these things because I've got insurance. Because I think a lot of businesses find out that they are covered for everything. It's like when the commercials that would run that would say, you think you're covered for this, but you're actually only covered for that. So with that in mind, it is helpful for businesses if you shop around for insurance, or if you take advantage of free risk assessments from your insurance company. They can do a risk assessment for you. They can obviously tell you what you're covered for and what you're not covered for. But a lot of times they can also provide you with some feedback or updates or information things that you can do to improve. So that would be a good way to take advantage, again, like I said, of free. You're paying, your premiums, you're paying for everything. So take advantage of that. Also, we say rob and duplicate, R&D. Talk to your fellow business owners about their disaster experience. A lot of them have maybe an unfortunate situation or something bad happen, but those are things that you can kind of learn from the business and make sure maybe that won't happen to you, or if it happens to you, you're better prepared. So definitely one aspect to talk about is whether related to insurance, like what's included, what's excluded, what policies, who's their insurance company, those type of things. And then I do have to mention, just related to COVID, about insurance companies, we're excluding losses on viruses and communicable diseases in most policies. Obviously, I think that there is ways that you can purchase additional coverage for that, but that's something you want to keep in mind if you're adding other policies, or if you're, kind of trying to think ahead for future pandemics. And then one of the things I mentioned that's very important is you're here to talk about business recovery, but I think we saw a lot during COVID. We also see it during huge disasters like Hurricane Katrina, that if you and your employees don't focus on your personal recovery and make plans regarding, being better prepared on the personal side and the family side, it's going to impact your business recovery. So you need to find that balance between your personal disaster prep and your business disaster prep, because you can't run your business if your employees are like in Orlando or some other place and you can't get them back if they don't have reliable internet. And also you can't really focus on your business recovery if you're worried about things with your family, your home, things like that. So we always encourage folks to basically focus on how you can get back to work, factor in childcare, factor in relatives, factor in pets, because those are all considerations when we have hurricanes and other disasters. Talk with your family and your team about the disaster plans. Set deadlines when key items need to be completed by. Like I said, come up with key tasks and deadlines, but don't overcomplicate it. Have a defined time frame that you're going to do it, and just focus on 3 or 4 things and try to knock it out. I was also going to just mention, in terms of your supply chain and disasters, you got to think upstream. You got your suppliers. You have you and your employees, and then downstream you have your customers. So there is a couple of things you need to factor in terms of the supply chain in your operations. So in terms of your suppliers and contractors, you want to maintain current vendor information. You want to have primary and alternate contacts. What if you can't get a hold of somebody? Who's a person you can call if they're not available? Basic thing, you want to have your account numbers, and you want to ask, do they have a continuity plan? That might be something you want to know about if they're going to be out of business, if we have a hurricane or a pandemic or anything else. So you might want to factor that in if you're considering other suppliers or contractors. Also, you want to share your knowledge and your experience with them. Maybe it makes their operations better. We're big believers in geographic diversity. Just think if a snowstorm hits, the Midwest, and that's where your big supplier is, hits Chicago. Think about if a hurricane hits the Southeast, if it hits Florida and Georgia, that's going to impact your operations. It does help when you're able to do it if you can have folks that are spread around. So maybe if something hits one part of the country, you're not going to be out for a couple of days or a week. And then also place those periodic orders so that you can have an active status with those vendors. The other thing we always talk about is about how your front line is your bottom line. So you can't run your business without your employees. And I think we've all saw that during COVID. It's tough to recruit employees. It's tough to retain employees. It's very important that you can basically get folks in, folks that know their area, know what they're doing. So it's important for you to help them with their disaster planning and also know where they are if a disaster happens. So very basic is when you hire somebody, you get their contact information and emergency contacts. Most businesses don't update that after they hire them. So fortunately, people get married. Unfortunately, people get divorced. People might move houses. They might get a new cell phone. A lot of things change. They might get a new email address because the email address they had was from high school and it wasn't very professional. So there might be a lot of reasons why that contact information changes. So at least once a year, If you can do it more frequently, that's even better. But basically update the contact information. Have up-to-date emergency contacts. So who's the update? It's a simple thing. Hey, is this person still a valid emergency contact for you? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes. If they don't, then you have a better way to do it. Also have alternate communication. The example I always give is prior to living in Miami, I lived in Washington, D.C. One day we had an earthquake in Washington, D.C. All the cell phones were having trouble because everybody was getting on the cell phones and calling their family, calling their coworkers, things like that. The buses were down, the metro was down. You couldn't get in and out of the city. So you want to basically have like multiple ways to contact people, just in case one particular means of communication breaks down. So that it could include group chats such as WhatsApp, Google Chat, group text messages, individual text messages, personal email, obviously your work email that you have. Just a couple of ways to communicate with people, because that's important if you have different disasters that you can check in with people. Just do like a check down, make sure everybody's safe, and also provide additional instructions on how you're going to reopen the office, what's the status of operations, things like that. And nowadays, everybody has some semblance of working remote and kind of being remote. So there is an aspect of communications that's been improved because of the pandemic. So we would encourage you to kind of keep that going as we all get back to in person. Obviously, for your team, you want to identify any special skills, any certifications, any first aid training, CPR, military. If anybody has any business continuity experience, those type of things come in handy. You want to, as we've noted before, work with your employees on their personal disaster plans. At least basically know, like we're going into hurricane season, are they going to shelter in place? Are they going to evacuate? If they're going to evacuate, where are they going to go? Who's a contact there? So that you can kind of check with your employees and make sure they're okay. Also for the employees, they need to be aware that if they're going to evacuate, like be aware of like what shelters they're going to, because some don't accept pets, some do. Obviously, if they're going to shelter in place, they need to be prepared and hunker down. Then you need to think through all these things that come back when childcare, pets, elderly relatives, like when things kind of get back to opening up. In terms of your customers, you need to identify the likelihood that a customer would be present in your business if something happens, because that needs to be factored into your continuity planning. You need to keep your communications open with customers, like that's phone, that's email, that's website, social media. You want to monitor the internet and any social media for trending stories. If something is of interest to you and you think it's relevant, it probably is going to be of interest to your customers as well. So the fact that you're sharing kind of like up-to-date information might be a way to increase your presence on social media and kind of keep things people aware, and people will really appreciate that. So then they'll follow back up. You want to try to keep a copy of your customer records offsite or in the cloud, just in case something happens to your physical location. And then this was always something we would discuss, but now a lot of businesses have it, is have an alternate work site from which you can communicate to customers during your recovery. So we all know we've been working remote in various aspects. So everybody kind of has a little improvement on this, but this is something you definitely want to factor in to your continuity planning. In terms of customers, one of the things we've also kind of emphasized a lot during COVID-19 was about gift cards. Gift cards is a really good way for you to put immediate cash in your business. Gift cards can be used online. You can use it in person later when conditions improve, but it's a good program. So businesses that don't have gift cards, it's a good thing to do now, because it's really tough to do it like when you're recovering from a hurricane, when you're in the middle of COVID and things like that. So we do ask for businesses to kind of get prepared on that, because it does take a little bit of work to set it up. But once you get it going, it's a good way. And then basically they're going to pay you cash for the gift card, and then they just use it down the road. And then think about for a gift card, most of the time we don't buy something, like if we have a $25 gift card, we don't end up spending exactly $25. Most of the time people get stuff that costs more than $25. So actually they already gave you 25, somebody else gave you $25, and then they're coming into their business and they're spending more money on top of that. So it's a good thing. And then whenever you're doing that, you want to emphasize, obviously, buy local, shop small, because that's a way a lot of businesses will emphasize after in disaster recovery, like to kind of get folks in the door. And they'll offer special, deals and promotions and things like that. We also have to talk about takeout orders and delivery. I know a lot of businesses shifted to delivery services and grocery stores during COVID to compensate for the loss of in-store traffic. So there is a way that you can basically revise your marketing with COVID or other disasters, that you can offer discounts for takeout orders if you're a restaurant, or first-time users that are on restaurants or groceries from delivery services. And then you can also make it easier for takeout orders by offering curbside pickup, setting aside some parking spaces, or kind of setting up how you would organize that. And then this is a quick rundown of the different delivery services from DoorDash to Instacart. The one thing I always stress for delivery services and takeout is that you do your research on how it works, how the deliveries work, how much in fees they're going to charge you, the speed that deliveries are made, how are you going to get your payments, when are you going to get your payments. Those are all things that a lot of businesses didn't think through during COVID because they were just in such a rush to kind of get the capital coming in, the revenue coming in. Definitely understand that. But a lot of businesses were not happy with the fees. We're not happy with everything else. So those are things that you can do your research on the different groups and how they set up. And maybe there's one that is a little better for your particular business model or your industry. The other thing you have to talk about is setting up the process and procedures, because you have to set up how you're going to handle those third-party delivery orders. Because although they're delivering the orders, customers are going to hold you responsible if there's any errors. So, how is the thing sealed? Is the soup sealed? How are you putting things in the bag so it's hot? Those type of things. You need to think through those things so that you can have things, the takeout delivery driver basically come and get it in a quick manner, get it over to the customer, and be in good shape when they get it. So then they can give you a great review. And then one of the things we do talk about is I talked about some of the contacts. Obviously, other contacts include the acronym BAIL that we use, bankers, accountants, insurance agents, and lawyers. There are other ones that don't fit neatly into that acronym, but those are folks that you should think about that maybe I didn't cover, that you want to factor into your disaster planning. In terms of the business, you also want to look at critical records. So what records are important for your business that you can keep functioning? You want to have multiple copies of those records. You want to have it on site, off site, media formats. You want to back it up, because how good is it if you have a version of that file and it's from 2 years ago? You want to backdate, update them and have it ready to go just in case you need it. And then I mentioned previously about photographs of inventory, furnishings, fixtures, equipment, your building, your space. You want to have that. That's important for insurance. That's important for SBA. So you want to have copies of those as well and backups. In terms of critical operations, a lot of folks are kind of thinking where to start. This is a list. It's not comprehensive, but this is a list of potential critical operations. So you see it runs from basically administrative, payroll, insurance, internal, external communications, utilities. This is just a list of operations you could think about depending on your industry, but depending on the type of business you have, how big your business is. Some of these may be relevant, some of them aren't. And then, you always have to factor in, planning is not like a one-off thing. You basically need to continually keep doing it. So don't procrastinate. Don't wait until there's a hurricane like right near South Florida or right near wherever you are. As I said, an easy way to get started is to do tabletop exercises. You can incorporate the members of your team that are important to recovery or planning. Make sure that those essential employees are part of the tabletop. You can walk through some different scenarios. It's a way to improve their readiness and also make sure that the business kind of has some of the different procedures in place. You can obviously always get help from professionals such as SBDC. There are other groups as well, as I mentioned, from insurance, from, county officials, from other groups like that that can help you out. Put things on paper. Don't just have it conceptually in your head. Putting it on paper, that helps you to update it and find kind of flaws in the planning. And then we always say update your planning regularly and test it repeatedly. No plan is bulletproof. So you want to basically have to do it after you have a net disaster that you've actually responded to. You want to do an after action report and basically see what worked, what didn't work, ways that you can improve it. The best thing you can do is when you have a disaster plan that's on like version 5.0 or 10.0, that means it's been vetted, it's been through some disasters. Like I said, planning doesn't stop. A lot of businesses such as FedEx, such as UPS, I know West Kendall Baptist Hospital, they're also very focused on preparedness and disaster resiliency. You can make that a core business value. That's actually something that is not just good business, but it also could help you in terms of your customers because they want to know you're going to be around and you're going to be open. Like I said, you can always communicate with your vendors, your suppliers, your contractors, any partners. Find out if there's any better ideas that you can use. A really good place to start is any kind of networking organizations that you're part of, any kind of industry associations. A lot of times they will post up like different stories of businesses that have successfully like pivoted or successfully survived a disaster. A lot of those stories, not only are they kind of good news stories, but they're also ways that you can kind of find some best practices. Also, a lot of times businesses will kind of have one of those Google searches, it's a little dark, where you're typing like whatever your industry is and hacker or cyber breach or whatever. So you can actually find articles on businesses, on things that happen to other businesses in your industry. And you can actually kind of map out, things that happen to them that may be ways that you can improve your disaster preparedness. And then we always talk about monitoring your performance, evaluating effectiveness, and then adjust your plan and update it as you need it. So we talked a lot about resources that are available. One of the resources that we've developed is the Bisaster mobile app. It was developed in partnership with the FIU Extreme Events Institute and also with USAID. Bisaster is available in the App Store and in Google Play, and it's free. It allows business owners to basically get better prepared. You can respond to incidents, you can jumpstart your recovery. It's free, it's in English and Spanish. The app includes a customizable checklist, disaster simulations like tabletop exercises, and also assessments that you can do to identify risk to your business. So it's very, very basic. We try not to add too many bells and whistles to it because we wanted it to be able to be used like over a long period of time. And so we just added in kind of what's the core, what's the basic stuff that you need. And it's been pretty long standing. I think it's been around since 2015. So it is a good app for you to kind of get better prepared. You can actually save some of the documents that you work on in the app. You can also email it to yourself. You can print it. So it is a pretty handy app. But that being said, we're not territorial. There are other apps out there that can help you get better prepared. The Red Cross has a really good app. Like they have a bunch of them related to first aid, hurricane, shelters. If you want to teach your children about disaster preparedness, FEMA has an app. In Miami-Dade County, there's Ready Miami-Dade, which came out. There's also, if you're in Monroe County in the Keys, there's Alert Monroe. So there's a number of like kind of federal and local apps. Gas Buddy is always one that people use, especially when we had the recent gas shortage, to find, stations and prices and things like that. Storm Radar, you have Hurricane Tracker, Emergency Radio. And so you guys will get a copy of this presentation so that you can look up these apps a little more. In terms of disaster business resources, ready.gov has a really good website that's focused on business preparedness and recovery. So I'd encourage you to go there from the federal side. The Florida Division of Emergency Management also has a business site that you can get some resources. The SBA does have a lot of disaster preparedness information as well. And in terms of Florida businesses, you also have floridadisaster.biz, which is kind of like a one-stop shop for a lot of disaster information. So you can get in there and see different information to help better prepare your business. And then there are two local guides, one for Miami-Dade County for hurricanes and one for Monroe County for hurricanes. So it has good information to prepare your business and also on reopening procedures and different numbers you can call and things like that. So now we're at the questions part. So let's see what we got. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to give them to me because I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I see most of the questions were related to getting a copy of the slides and the recording. And I saw Brianna did put up the survey. So she put up the survey on if this was helpful. Did you like it? The app name again was Bizaster, Bizaster, Bizaster. And it's available in Google Play and in the App Store. And then I see Brianna responded to some of the initial questions. Come on, guys, give me an additional question or two. Does anybody want to post in the chat if they have like a best practice they can share regarding their business and getting better prepared? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, so I know I didn't cover everything, but I definitely tried to cover as much as I can. If we can be a resource to you guys, if we can help you in any way, I'm going to put our contact information up here. And definitely, definitely count on SBDC if we can be a resource to you. You can give us a call. You can go to the website. We're on social media as well. And I would just encourage you guys, don't wait until we have a hurricane or some kind of other pandemic or something like that to get prepared. Now is the time to do it. It's the best time to do it when you're not dealing with it, you know, kind of in the middle. And we do have one question. Let's see. Okay, I see a question. It's actually from one of my consultants. So thank you, TAC, for giving us a question. She's talking about tabletop exercises. So like I mentioned, basically a tabletop exercise is where you have like a series, like a scenario. So you have like something that you walk through with your team. So you're like, is this, you know, what if we can't get access to the building? What if we have a fire? What if we have this? What if we have that? But you basically have like a whole scenario mapped out, and you basically try to work through with your team on what are the steps you would take. And it's really good to do with your team because you can think kind of like in a safe environment, in a safe space, how you would respond. And it actually does improve. A lot of times businesses now, given everything that's going on around the country, they've done like active shooter trainings. So they go through with their team, this is what you can expect if we have an active shooter or an active shooter, you know, call or alert. This is what's going to happen. You know, we're going to do this. Basically, then the police are going to come. This is what they're going to do. This is what they're looking for. So you can kind of understand what happens. And so I definitely encourage you guys to take advantage of the resources that I gave you, the different links, because a lot of those will include some tabletop exercises or some basic questions to ask. As I mentioned, SBDC also does have tabletop resources. And definitely just encouraging you guys, take a day, take an afternoon, you know, walk through that with your team, talk to them about the scenarios most likely to occur, most likely to impact your business. How would they respond? What do they need? It is a way for you to improve planning and also find out additional resources that you need for the business. And for a lot of businesses, it's like if you have a series of questions, you get through like the first question and they're like, man, we need some more work. So it is a really good resource and a really good thing to do. And but there's a lot. And even if you search for small business tabletop exercise, those are some resources you can find. Then somebody else asked a question, what does effective planning for a hurricane really look like? I would say what's the bottom? And then the same looks like the same person asked, what's the bottom line of hurricane preparedness? So I would say regarding hurricane preparedness, a lot of the stuff that we cover with you guys is kind of fundamental for that. It's basically having emergency contact information for your team members, working with them on their evacuation plan, thinking through, are they going to evacuate? Are they going to shelter in place? What are the preparations they're going to make if they're going to shelter in place? If they're going to evacuate, where are they going to go? Who are they going to stay with? Those are a lot of the things that are important. For the business, obviously, it's a lot of the check downs that we have normally in terms of trying to prepare the business physically, you know, boarding up, shutters, like all those type of things, making sure it doesn't flood, you know, making sure you have all the information you need just in case the building is impacted, making sure like you have, if you have a hole in the roof, if you have damage to your equipment, like all those type of things. So making a lot of preparations, but a lot of those things are things that you can't do last minute, you know, so some of those things you can do now to be better prepared and save you time. And I mentioned it's very, very, very important. Focus on personal and family recovery for you and for your team, because you can't get back after a hurricane if you're worried about your house, if you're worried about your kids, your pets, your relatives, where's your employees, like those type of things. So I definitely think those are some basic things you can do from hurricane preparedness. But for us, obviously, it depends on the strength of the hurricane, you know, where it's coming in, you know, what part of the county. But if you've got communications in place, if you've done preparations beforehand, protecting your business, protecting your equipment, you know, all that. We all know by now about getting the plastic and putting it over, you know, equipment, you know, taking out any materials that might get blown around, like all those type of things. So definitely look at, depending on where you're located, those hurricane guides for your county, or a lot of cities have them. And then I would stress also check out the Florida disaster.biz. That's a really good website as well to get better prepared. So I see we have, let's see, we have a couple more questions. Okay. Thanks to you guys for having more questions. And I think somebody was saying it's blue skies and sunny. Why worry about hurricane preps now? I think there's a lot of stuff you can do now to save you time later. So I think there are some basic things you can do. Because if you're doing everything last minute, it's going to impact your preparations. The question was, what is your feedback on the Chamber of Commerce foundation of their disaster resiliency in a box workbook? I haven't seen the recent one. I saw a previous one. I think like any kind of resource, it's basically taking a look at it and just seeing what resource works best for your business. Not every checklist, not every tabletop exercise works best based on the industry or the size of your business. So I think kind of coming at it from what's going to be easiest for you to do, what works best for you, what makes sense from your business perspective. But I think all of it's a good place to start. And you can obviously take things and customize it for your business. Somebody asked, will the YouTube recordings a printable set of slides? Brianna did give you the slides. You can basically print those out. And then the video will be available on the FIU Entrepreneurship YouTube page. So we hope that you guys don't need it this hurricane season. We hope that, you know, we don't have any hurricanes or tropical storms, but we do live in South Florida. So for that, we always need to be prepared. And so you can watch it later on if there's something you missed or something you want to brush back up on. And I would just encourage you guys, thank you for thinking about your preparedness, because the fact that you're here today, we always say if you're doing something, you're not doing something else. So thank you for taking time away from your business to sit in this webinar. We really tried to give you good information that was actionable for your business, not just conceptual, not something that you wouldn't apply to the business. And definitely count on us if we can be a resource to you or if we can connect you to other resources. And somebody was asking kind of the last question, does FEMA or SBA offer any training that we can attend to learn more? Yes, SBA does have trainings online. I did include the link in there. There also is FEMA trainings available as well if you go to the FEMA website. Ready.gov is the best place to start regarding disaster preparedness trainings. And the ready.gov will have links to FEMA and other websites like that. So I just want to thank you guys for your time. I want to thank Michelle and West Kendall Baptist Hospital and Healthy West Kendall. And just have a great week, guys. And thank you again for attending today's presentation.